We're rolling.
Welcome to the House Dudes podcast, where we invite you to follow us on our journey towards financial freedom using the power of real estate. I'm Jack Haas.
And I'm Josh Koth. Here at House Dudes, we believe in a couple key principles. Number one, the best way to retain information is by teaching it to others. And number two, a rising tide lifts all boats. We're not competitors, we're a community. So let's get into some real estate investing.
Well, Josh, it's time to get our nerd on.
Will do. Nerdiness prepared and ready.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about online marketing and what it takes to get some of this done.
Right, so we're continuing our series of how to find deals, and we're still concentrating on strategies that require a lot more of your time and a lot less capital. So these are things you can just put some sweat equity, some effort in, and generate some good results. So today we're going to talk about things involving computers.
Nerd alert. So let's start things off, because I think there's a lot of, and frankly, I think a lot of people think of on this online marketing as that silver bullet that's going to take down and handle most of your marketing. But there's a lot more to it than that. So there is a lot of time to be spent here.
Yeah, exactly. So let's first kind of cover the obvious piece is, you need to set up a presence, right? To even have things to push and have a channel to send all these ads and things we're going to speak about through. So first of all, you probably need to get your domain and website figured out, right? And that can be done very cheaply, but you do need to spend a few bucks getting that set up. Any tips on that? Like, I've always just gone to GoDaddy for domain names. Have you found a cheaper site, or is that just kind of priced by the internet gods?
Yeah, I don't think I've seen too much of a difference between pricing when it comes to domain names. I prefer Namecheap because it just has a bit more robust and allows me to dial in other things on the domain name. So, so here's another nerd alert. So regarding MX Records and working with Pixels and a few other online services, I just found that interface a little easier to deal with. There's another website, another name provider called Hover that I've had some positive experience with, but that's for people who want absolutely no interaction with their domain name. In fact, their customer service is so good that you pay a premium for their domain name and you call them and they'll do it for you.
And depending on your level of technology experience, you got to decide what works best for you. I'm fairly tech savvy, but I just have used GoDaddy just because of the ease of it. And you can set up a website, email, everything right from the GoDaddy interface. So that's, if you don't want to, and you got to figure out what is your time worth too. So if there's whatever way you're going to get it done, and depending on your level of technical savviness, judge accordingly. But get a domain name, get a website set up, and you should probably, if you have you need to think about branding and whether you're just going to be called your name or Someone Buys Houses, or if you have a company name in mind, you probably need to get that figured out and then get set up on pretty much every social media platform, at least some version of your name, and create accounts on all those current social media platforms.
Yeah, as soon as you decide on something, make sure you do that land grab anywhere and everywhere, because you'd be surprised. Even as creative as you are with your name, you will likely find issues and consistencies among all the platforms.
Yeah, and unless you have a really weird, unusual name, chances are some version of it may be already taken. So yeah, as soon as you can, you want to figure those out. And even if you don't know which platforms you're going to be pushing yourself on, you want to at least get your username figured out, so you'll have that because we don't know which ones are going to be productive, 2-3 years from now. That's always a evolving landscape, I mean, I don't think we have our brand name set up on MySpace, but it's probably not making a comeback. But we'll be glad if we have it reserved there at least.
Yeah, you never know, right? Some things do come full circle. So let's talk about that website as the next step, and I'm really going to suggest you always pick some sort of content management system. And that's maybe people are familiar with Squarespace or WordPress or something like that, where you don't need to know the coding. You just have the back end, you log in, and you can add your content and pages from there.
Right. So if you're going to do a blog or something, and again, we're going to preach consistency is the key. So if you're going to do what's called SEO, so that's kind of the main reason you have a website and you want to show up in search results. And we'll talk about in the future how you can pay to do that.
Search engine optimization.
Yep, SEO, search engine optimization. How can you organically rise in those search results? Because the idea is if somebody in your market types in "sell my house fast," you want to appear in those results towards the top if you can. If you can wave your magic wand, that's what you want to see happen. And other than spending a bunch of money paying services to get you in the first page of Google or whatever they call it, how can you organically rise in those rankings?
So Google has really changed this a lot. And in fact, Microsoft's Bing is a similar situation where you used to, like 10 years ago, if you had a website up, that was a big part of it. And with the right wording, you could be moved to the top of the search engines pretty quickly. Now these search engines are looking for new content. So just like everything else, we're going to say again, consistency is king. So if you are going to try this avenue for marketing, you need to be posting on a regular basis new content and relevant to your area.
So if you're looking to buy houses, you could type articles in a blog format, and if you just picked a schedule, I'm going to write up one article a week and publish it every Saturday or something. That consistency will eventually pay off. Now, as far as content goes, you have to look at your audience. So you're trying to target people that might want to sell their house. So you could say, here's how to sell your house in whatever your market is in Fargo quickly, or here's the best things top 10 ways to stage your house to sell quickly, or, just anything that your potential seller may be looking for, type of content they're looking for. And you're providing an educational angle so that they may find you online through that content, and just the regular, consistent production of that content with the appropriate subject matter and being relevant to those potential seekers of information, you'll organically start to show up higher in the rankings if you keep that consistency up.
Right. So then there's also other parts of SEO that we probably won't go into too deep of measure here, but there's other things such as keywords and focus words and region and meta tags and the title and how all of this stuff matches. WordPress particularly has great features associated with plugins you can add to your site that helps you with this. So I'd recommend checking out the plugin called Yoast, because it will analyze your title, your content, and a few other things, and give you a red light, yellow light, green light associated with the content so that you know that it's SEO friendly.
A little throwback Thursday here. I remember back in the day, if you would look at the bottom of a web page, you would see text that was hidden in the page that was the same color as the background. Remember that?
Yeah.
And people used to just cram a bunch of keywords, that would help them rise to the higher in the rankings. I think Google and everybody has caught on to that strategy. So,
yep.
I don't know what they call that, but keyword stuffing or something.
Yeah. In fact, Google has gotten so good at that it even recognizes what color the background of the page is and what color the text is.
Right. So those things probably aren't going to work anymore. You just got to put the time in and write content, great content, and just put it on a regular basis. Now, again, we're talking about ways that you can affect change with more of your efforts and less paid efforts. So, that if that sounds daunting, writing a bunch of articles, what am I going to write about? I can't write. That sounds like a big burden. Well, yeah, it may be, but it's a strategy that will work if you put the time in and give it. Another thing is you really can't expect this to happen overnight. to rise, and depending on, of course, the size of your market, how much competition there is for certain keywords, and, you're competing against people that are paying to show up at the top of those results. It can take a long time to organically rise in those results. So but you really do have to just trust the process and produce the content and put it out there.
Yeah, and this is another example where lean on your interests and your abilities. If writing a blog post doesn't suit your needs, maybe shooting a quick video or doing a podcast or something that you can embed on your webpage, that's just as valuable. So think of those options as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be text all the time.
Now, let's say you had a video. There's ways to extract the transcription of that and put that in the body of the blog post. Let's say you did a video podcast or something, and then is that something you can do? Would that help rise in the rankings too if you extracted the transcription of that?
Yeah, in fact, there are some theories where a YouTube and Google recognize that you've embedded a YouTube video on your webpage, and as such, it will surface that at a higher, it gives it more score credibility.
Right, because Google owns YouTube now, right?
Yep.
So they're going to rank
right.
YouTube. Makes sense.
One of those things that you can do in YouTube, and you can play around with this, is that there's a free transcription service for closed captioning on those YouTube videos. So you can take that file and copy and paste it and embed it into your YouTube, and then it becomes text. It isn't perfect. You have to do some editing there from that, because it's just a bunch of words at that point. But at least it gives you the core text to leverage. And again, Google is smart enough to know that text that you just stripped out of YouTube is the same content as the YouTube video itself.
Yeah, that's only going to help you.
So it's kind of creepy, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. There's a high creepiness factor in a lot of this stuff. But yeah, so if the consistency is the key. If you just pick a schedule you're going to stick to, produce that content, and you should start to show up higher in the results. And one tip too is how to check if you're showing up in the results. Don't just go into your regular browser and just type "sell my house fast," because it's going to be clouded by your previous searches and what it knows about you. So you always want to open up, I think it's called an incognito window or private window or something like that, right, so that it kind of starts fresh without any influences from your previous activity. So that's something that you want to take into account. Always try to find a private browsing window or secret window, whatever they call it, in Google, right, to do your searches, so you're getting a really objective, unbiased look at where you're showing up in the results.
Right. And you'd be surprised at the results. And if you're consistent and persistent with that content, that's probably going to be your best results and best efforts placed there. Like Josh mentioned, it does take quite a bit of time. So you need to be very consistent and persistent with this.
Yeah, I'd call this like a 6-month strategy minimum.
Oh, yeah.
If you're producing content on a weekly basis or every 3 days or something, in order for you to see results. All right, well, let's move on to, from that's kind of your website and your SEO. Let's move on to social media. Now, here's one where again, like we said before, to grab your username on all these different platforms, that's always changing, which platforms are kind of hot and which ones your target demographic is going to be on. And that's kind of where you need to be. We use Facebook a lot right now just because people that are selling houses are a little bit older. If you were skewing younger, you'd want to be on like Snapchat, Instagram, or but that's kind of constantly changing landscape. So you do need to be kind of tapped into which platforms are currently being used and be where the people are.
Yeah, and just because you don't use those platforms, don't assume that the people you're trying to reach don't. A good example is Snapchat. I frankly and transparently, I don't get that platform. But
also, get off my lawn.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that use it. Instagram is another thing where if you have a lot of photos, especially before and after, for fix and flips, great place to do any kind of marketing is through Instagram.
Yeah. So, you do have to dedicate some time to figuring out what platforms people are on and where your target audience is going to be. And just like any of these strategies, if you're going to pick, the best thing to do is pick one or two and really be good at it. Mm-hmm. Don't try to hit every platform all the time. That's just you're going to be spread thin. It's going to be hard to really maximize your production. So pick one or two that you can do consistently. And another thing too is there's ways to repurpose content. If you have a couple pictures, like you said, before and afters on flips, there's ways you can blast those out to multiple platforms. In fact, there's services, you can spend a little, again, we're trying to focus on effort, not cash here, but there is some fairly inexpensive tools you can use to blast multiple platforms at a time, right? We use a couple of those. Maybe you want to speak to that?
Yeah. Well, Hootsuite and Buffer are the two popular ones. They do have even a free tier, and they allow you to push to multiple, just like a handful of social medias at the same time. Then they do have paid tiers. We use a tool called SocialBee. I like SocialBee because it allows me to, they have template calendars associated with the best times to post on these social networks. But it also resurfaces old content. I think you've even pointed out that SocialBee will pull a old blog post or a podcast from our feed and just kind of randomly insert it. It's just a way for us to be in front and keep things consistent and persistent.
Yeah, you're staying top of mind with really no effort other than setting it up initially. Then it's just kind of churning away, surfacing your content, that's what you want to have happen.
So what's really kind of neat about this too is that I don't want you to think, and when we first started doing this, it was a very manual process. So every time we'd post a podcast, for example, I would manually send it to each of the social networks. Now I post it to our Libsyn, and then it's SocialBee picks it up from there and broadcasts it out. It just makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, and that's pretty minimal expense and minimal effort getting that set up initially. So pretty high ROI on that.
Yeah.
Another thing too is, again, you have to just pick something you're going to do consistently. So if you're going to say every, Friday I'm going to do a Facebook Live video, or I'm going to put up a YouTube video, or I'm going to do a post to Instagram, just that consistent production is that's the best thing you can do. So you just got to pick a schedule and just produce it, and don't get hung up on the production value. In fact, just like with bandit signs we mentioned earlier, the more handwritten and junky looking a bandit sign is, the better results it gets. And I think people are attracted to that authenticity. And when you're doing live videos, podcasts, YouTube videos, even just written posts, that authenticity, that's what you have to offer. That's your unique thing, is your personality. Mm-hmm. So don't worry about if you're standing in front of a house that you're trying to sell. Don't feel like you have to be like Tony Robbins or Grant Cardone or a big salesperson. In fact, that'll probably work against you. The best thing you can do is just be yourself, kind of flaws and all, unless you're some kind of, demon spawn. Then don't be that.
That's why you typically see me in the videos.
But just be natural, and speak authentically. And doing an authentic, crappy video once a week would be way better than doing a highly produced video, every 6 months or something. Mm-hmm. Just that regular production of authentic content is the best thing you can do.
Yeah, if you actually think about it, if you're scrolling through your Facebook page, what are you going to stop on? The highly produced thing that looks like an advertisement, or something that looks like it's shot from your cell phone that your buddy just posted?
Right, because there's a subconscious thing that happens is people resist heavy sales pressure. So when they see a commercial, people just go, commercial, yuck. They try to skip as fast as they can. Mm-hmm. But if they see you standing out in front of a house just chatting, you're more likely to kind of sneak in under the radar, even though you're doing the exact same thing. You're trying to sell a house. So, rather than hire a video crew to produce a really slick looking commercial for a house, I'd say the highest ROI would be to produce a weekly video, or, every other day do a video of just standing in front of it. And think about the time that takes and the expense. It costs nothing to stand in front of a house with your cell phone and do a Facebook Live.
Right. So, again, progress, not perfection on this one, and just get it done. Another thing is that a lot of people think that there's not going to be enough content there. I can't stress this enough, especially if you're doing photos. Release one photo at a time. Don't release the whole house at once. And you want to do some close-up photos, like of a light fixture, of the sink, like the faucet. You want these little details and drip those out. You want click-throughs, and to get click-throughs, you want that little bait dangling there. If they want to see things in more detail, they have to click through to the listing or something.
Yeah, then you can really wring every bit of interest out of that one house. Like, we're selling a house right now in the MLS, and we took a bunch of pictures, obviously, and I recorded like 5 videos. And another thing too is you can kind of stockpile these. After I took the pictures, I just went through and recorded like 5 videos of highlighting different areas of the house, and then just upload them to Drive, and then I'm having you drip those out.
Right.
Over the course of a few weeks. And, just by dripping that out, it keeps you surface to the top of a lot of the social media stuff, and you really wring every bit of juice out of it.
So, and then another thing too is that we try to do other engagements. A great example is if you can do a poll. We always get the best traction when we ask the audience's opinion. Everything from what color should we paint that front door, to what faucet we should put in the kitchen.
Yeah, by far the biggest response we've ever had to anything we ever posted was when we posted 2 paint colors and said which for the front door of a flip, which color should we choose?
Yeah.
And made it a poll. I mean, we got by far the highest engagement of anything we've ever done, and that took like 5 minutes to produce that.
And we probably should define like what happens when we get some sort of engagement like that.
And that was on Facebook, by the way, just to clarify, that was a Facebook poll.
Right. So anytime a person likes and shares or comments, it then becomes part of their timeline. So then everybody that they're friends with also see that exact post. So it just kind of snowballs from there.
Yeah, that reach was huge on that. So try to do a poll is a great way to do it. And that's Facebook specifically. I'm sure other platforms you can do that, but Facebook makes it pretty easy to create an actual poll, where people have to click A or B option, and there's different ways they can structure it. But yeah, ask for their input. I mean, that's a great way to get engagement.
Sure. And before and after photos are always huge. Everybody loves to watch those extreme makeover type shows on TV. A great mini example of that is just a before and after photo of one room or one aspect of the house. That also has some pretty significant engagement.
Yeah, think about every one of those flipping shows. That's really the whole payoff, is the transformation. That's what people watch those for. They want to see, whoa, my God, the house is destroyed. And then, wow, look how beautiful it is. That's that whole, and then if there's some arguing along the way, even better, right?
Yeah.
Conflict, but besides conflict, and that's what all reality shows are based on, people love transformation. So if you're flipping, or even if you're improving a house and just rehabbing enough to get a renter in there, typically it's going to be a pretty dramatic transformation. So take advantage of that, especially in the visual medium, of all these different social media platforms. A lot of them are set up for visual media, so take advantage of that. Shoot videos, take pictures. Or if you see anything unusual, like we've seen toilets in the middle of basements just randomly out in the open, something that's kind of a curiosity. Highlight that, take a picture of it. It generates interest, and eyeballs is what you're looking for. You're looking for eyeballs, so you throw anything interesting out there.
Right. And then lastly, and we can't say this enough as well, because we've seen quite a bit of success regarding this, is join any and all local buy-sell groups, especially on Facebook. We all know about Craigslist, but I'd even make the argument now that most of that type of marketplace, majority of that's happening on Facebook now, especially those local groups, those local private groups that you have to ask permission to join. So right now, even in Fargo, North Dakota, we have over 30 buy-sell groups that we are a part of. And anytime I have a property listed for sale or we have some sort of event, I share that to all of those groups at once. So you can imagine that really does help with the traction, just more eyeballs.
Exactly. And, you know, it used to be classified ads, and then it kind of moved to Craigslist, and now it's kind of moved to these buy-sell groups. I don't know where it'll be a couple of years from now, but that's where we're getting the best traction. So you want to spend your time, just like anything, on the highest ROI activity. And that seems to be it for us right now as far as trying to get eyeballs on our listings. So take advantage of that. And that wraps it up for today.
Yes, and we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next time.
Be consistent.
We've put a lot of effort into providing useful content, and if you found value in the show and have any interest in supporting us with a small donation, head over to patreon.com/housedudes.
And if you have any thoughts or questions, shoot us an email at info@housedudes.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter @housedudes. And if you like what you're hearing, head over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps other investors out there find the show.
And remember, massive positive impact requires
massive positive action. We'll see you next time. This episode was brought to you by HouseDudes.com. Do you have time to actively manage flipping and rentals yourself? If so, go for it. If you live in a market that won't cash flow or don't have the time to do all the work, are you just out of luck? If there was a way to participate more passively, would that appeal to you? I'm sure you have questions about how the process works and what to do next. If that's the case, fill out the form on housedudes.com/investors, and we'll reach out to see if you are a good fit for our business. This is first come, first serve, and we will have to stop taking applications when our goals are met. See you at housedudes.com/investors.
I don't like to tell a man what to do with his money, but if you ain't investing in property, then you're dumber than a dummy.
I'm not dumb. I'm smart.
Well, buy property. That's my advice.